The atmospheric processors of Starport Meridian hummed with their usual mechanical drone, recycling the stale air that carried hints of fuel exhaust, overpriced station food, and the perpetual anxiety of travelers who'd rather be anywhere else. Jaden Cross stood at Customs Checkpoint 7, watching his entire livelihood get flagged for random inspection for the third time this month. "Sir, these textiles are on the restricted list," the customs agent droned, not even bothering to look up from her datapad. "They're decorative tapestries from Helios 4, Jaden said, fighting to keep his voice level. "I have all the proper documentation. They've been through 4 other ports without issue." The agent tapped something on her screen. "That'll be 800 credits for expedited processing." 800? Jaden stopped himself, closed his eyes, and took a long breath. This was a shakedown, plain and simple. Everyone knew it, but arguing would only make it worse. Fine, 800 credits. As he transferred the funds, watching his already thin profit margin evaporate, he wondered, not for the first time, why he'd ever thought running an independent trade business was a good idea. His father had warned him. Join a corporate fleet, the old man had said. Stability, benefits, a pension. But Jaden had wanted freedom, adventure, to see the galaxy on his own terms. Turned out the galaxy mostly involved bureaucratic extortion and barely breaking even. "Your cargo will be released to Dock 42 in 6 hours, the agent said. Already dismissing him. 6 hours? I need to make my departure window in 4. Should have thought of that before importing restricted goods. The agent's smile was as genuine as synthetic. Meet. Jaden grabbed his manifest and stalked away before he said something that would get him arrested. The main concourse of Starport Meridian stretched before him, a massive corridor lined with shops, bars, and the usual collection of travelers, merchants, and station workers going about their business. He was halfway to Dock 42, already calculating whether he could afford to wait 6 hours or if he should just cut his losses and leave the cargo behind. When the crowd's energy shifted, it was subtle at first. Conversations dropped in volume. Footsteps became more purposeful, people angling away from something. Jaden looked up from his datapad and saw the crowd, parting like water around a stone. Walking through the center of the concourse was a Kethari woman. And even Jaden, who prided himself on being observant, needed a moment to process what he was seeing. She was tall, easily 6.5 feet, with obsidian black scales that seemed to absorb the station's harsh lighting. Her eyes were a striking amber, set in a face that was humanoid enough to be unsettling, but alien enough to be unmistakably other. She wore fitted dark armor that looked both ceremonial and brutally functional, and moved with the fluid grace of someone who'd spent a lifetime perfecting violence. But what really caught Jaden's attention was the reaction around her. People weren't just avoiding her. They were terrified. A merchant dropped his sample case and didn't stop to pick it up. A group of dock workers pressed themselves against a wall. A child started crying, and its parents swept it up and practically ran in the opposite direction. And the woman she noticed. Her amber eyes tracked each reaction with what looked like weary resignation. Jaden watched all this while standing directly in her path, too tired and frustrated to care about whatever drama was unfolding. He had bigger problems, like the fact that he'd just paid 800 credits he didn't have for cargo he might not be able to transport, like the fact that his ship needed repairs he couldn't afford, like the fact that he was 1 bad month away from having to sell the Wandering Star and crawl back to corporate work. So when the terrifying alien woman walked directly toward him, he didn't move. He just sighed, shifted his datapad to his other hand, and waited for her to go around him. She didn't. She stopped about 3 feet away and looked at him with those unsettling amber eyes. Up close, he could see faint scars on her scales, The kind that spoke of violence survived. There was something predatory in the way she held herself, coiled and ready. The entire concourse seemed to be holding its breath. "You're in my way," she said. Her voice was deep, melodic, with an accent that suggested standard wasn't her first language. "Yeah, well," Jaden said, "join the club. Today's been full of obstacles." Her head tilted slightly, like a raptor examining unexpected prey. "Everyone moves when I approach. Good for them. I'm not everyone." Jaden glanced at his datapad again. "Look, I don't mean to be rude, but I've got about 3 hours to figure out how to salvage a cargo shipment that's currently being held hostage by corrupt customs agents. So if you could just—" He gestured vaguely to the side, suggesting she walk around him. The woman didn't move. Instead, she stepped closer, close enough that Jaden had to tilt his head back slightly to maintain eye contact. "Do you know who I am? Should I?" Something flickered in her expression. Confusion, maybe. Or disbelief. "I am Farah of the Shadow Clan. I have ended the lives of warlords, toppled criminal empires, hunted those that entire governments could not find." Jaden waited for more. When nothing came, he said, "Okay, I'm Jaden Cross. I sell textiles and occasionally manage not to go bankrupt." "Nice to meet you." The woman Farah stared at him. Around them, the crowd was still frozen, watching this exchange like it was a bomb that might explode at any second. "You're not afraid," Farah said slowly, as if testing the words. "Of you? No offense, but you're not even in my top 5 problems right now." Jaden counted on his fingers. Corrupt customs agents, dwindling fuel reserves, a cooling system that's held together by hope and improper wiring. The fact that I haven't had a decent meal in a week. And he paused, reconsidering. "Okay, you might make top 10, but it's a competitive list." For a long moment, Farah just looked at him. Then, to his surprise, she made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was rusty, like she didn't do it often. "You are either very brave or very foolish, human. I'm really banking on option 3, too exhausted to care." Jaden checked his datapad again. "Listen, Farah of the Shadow Clan, as much as I'm enjoying this philosophical discussion about fear, I really do need to. Why aren't you afraid of me?" The question came out sharp, almost demanding. Jaden looked at her, really looked at her. Past the armor and the scales and the reputation that had the entire station terrified. He saw the way her shoulders were slightly tense, the way her eyes held something that wasn't quite curiosity and wasn't quite vulnerability. "Honestly," he said, "I've learned that the scariest things in the galaxy aren't the ones everyone warns you about. They're the ones that slip under your radar. Tax audits, failing life support systems, realizing you've spent the last 3 years chasing a dream that's slowly bankrupting you." He shrugged. "Compared to that, you're just someone standing in my way. Now, are we done here, or do you need me to be more dramatically terrified? Because I can probably manage a flinch if it'll help you feel better." Farah's expression shifted surprise, definitely, and something else he couldn't quite read. Then, unexpectedly, she stepped aside. "I will walk with you," she announced. Jaden blinked. "What? You intrigue me, Jaden Cross, who sells textiles. I wish to understand why you do not fear me." "That's really not necessary," but she was already falling into step beside him. And suddenly, the crowd was parting around both of them now. People staring with expressions ranging from horror to morbid fascination. Jaden sighed. This day just kept getting better. As they walked, he became acutely aware of the whispers following them. He caught fragments. "That's the shadow. Never leaves witnesses. Counted 47 confirmed kills. Probably hundreds more. Great. Just great." He was now apparently associated with a legendary assassin. That would do wonders for his business reputation. So, Jaden said, because apparently his life choices today were all terrible. You're an assassin. Yes. Cool. Cool. And you're here because... A contract, of course. Jaden navigated around a maintenance droid. Let me guess. You can't tell me who or why because of professional ethics or whatever. Correct. Well, at least you have ethics. That's something. He glanced at her. You know everyone's probably going to think you're here to kill me now, right? Farah looked at him with those amber eyes. Are you concerned? Should I be? No. And I'm not concerned. Jaden stopped at a viewport overlooking the docking bays, pulling up his cargo information. Look, I appreciate the company sort of, but I really do have work to do. And I'm guessing walking around with me isn't exactly conducive to your, contract. Farah moved to stand beside him at the viewport, close enough that he could feel the slight warmth radiating from her scales. When was the last time someone spoke to you without fear? She asked quietly. The question caught him off guard. He turned to look at her and saw something unexpected in her expression. Loneliness. It was there and gone in a moment, but he'd seen it. I don't know, Jaden admitted. When was the last time someone stood their ground around you? This morning, Farah said. You. They stood there for a moment in companionable silence. Two people who probably shouldn't have anything in common. Watching ships come and go through the viewport. Your cargo problem, Farah said eventually. The corrupt agents. I could help with that. Jaden raised an eyebrow. How exactly would you know what? I don't want to know. Thanks, but I'll figure it out. Last thing I need is to owe an assassin a favor. It wouldn't be a favor. Farah's lips curved slightly. Considerate payment for your time and your lack of fear. It's refreshing. Before Jaden could respond, his comm unit chirped. He glanced at the message and groaned. Apparently my cargo inspection has been extended another 4 hours. Something about additional security concerns. He let his head fall back. I'm cursed. That's it. I've been cursed. Farah was watching him with what might have been amusement. Come, she said. Show me these corrupt agents. That's really not, I insist. And Jaden, against every ounce of common sense he possessed, found himself saying, okay, sure, why not? Today's already a disaster. Might as well make it memorable. As they headed back toward the customs area, Jaden couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just gotten exponentially more complicated. But when he glanced at Farah, at the slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth, at the way her usual deadly grace seemed somehow lighter, he thought maybe complicated. Wasn't entirely bad, even if everyone they passed looked like they'd just seen. Their own deaths walking by. The customs. Office at Starport Meridian occupied a corner of the lower docking level, deliberately positioned where natural light never reached, and the air recyclers worked at half capacity. Jaden had always suspected the dismal atmosphere was intentional. Make people uncomfortable enough, and they'd pay whatever bribe was demanded just to leave faster. Today. However, he wasn't alone. Farah stood beside him at the counter, her presence turning the already tense space into something that felt like the moment before a lightning strike. The same agent from earlier, a middle-aged woman named Kellis, had gone pale the moment they entered. I'd like to expedite my cargo release, Jaden said pleasantly, as if he hadn't noticed the agent's hands trembling over her datapad. That is, we have protocols, Kellis stammered, her eyes darting between Jaden and Farah. The inspection is still ongoing. How much longer? Farah's voice cut through the air like a blade. 12 hours, maybe possibly. That seems excessive, Farah observed. She leaned forward slightly, resting her hands on the counter. Her claws, Jaden hadn't noticed them before, made small scratching sounds against the metal surface, especially for decorative textiles that have already cleared 4 previous ports. Kellis looked like she might pass out. I don't make the rules, You extorted 800 credits from him this morning. Thera continued, her tone conversational, but her eyes fixed on the agent with predatory focus. Tell me, is that standard procedure or personal enterprise? The agent's face went from pale to gray. I don't know what you're talking about. Actually, Jaden interjected quickly, let's not do whatever this is about to become. Kellis, look, I know how this works. Someone higher up takes a cut, you take a cut. Everyone pretends it's legitimate fees. I'm not here to cause trouble. He glanced at Thera. We're not here to cause trouble. I just want my cargo so I can leave and never come back to this station again. Can we make that happen? There was a long pause. Kellis looked at her screen, then at Thera, then back at her screen. Her fingers flew across the datapad. Your cargo will be ready for pickup in 30 minutes, she said quietly. The 800 credit fee will be ... refunded due to processing errors. Jaden blinked. Really? Really? Kellis wouldn't meet his eyes. Dock 42. Just please go. Outside the office, Jaden let out a long breath. Well, that was either the most efficient customer service I've ever experienced or the most terrifying. Possibly both. Thera's expression hadn't changed, but there was something satisfied in her posture. Your problem is solved. Yeah, by intimidation. That agent's probably going to have nightmares about you. Good. Perhaps she'll reconsider her career choices. Jaden couldn't argue with that logic, though he felt he probably should. They started walking toward Dock 42, and Jaden found himself hyper-aware of every eye tracking their movement. A group of cargo haulers literally stopped working to watch them pass. A security droid gave them an unnecessarily wide berth. Does this ever get old? Jaden asked. The staring? No. Thera's jaw tightened slightly. It never does. Something in her voice made Jaden look at her more closely. In the harsh lighting of the docking level, he could see the fine network of scars across her scales, more clearly some old and faded, others more recent. Each one probably had a story, probably involved violence. But right now, she just looked tired. Hey, he said impulsively. When's the last time you ate something that wasn't a ration bar? Thera frowned. I fail to see the relevance. Just answer the question. She considered. 4 days ago? 4 days? Jaden stopped walking. You've been eating nothing but ration bars for 4 days? My work requires focus, not, okay, new plan. Before I deal with my cargo, we're getting actual food. And before you argue, consider it payment for helping with the custom situation. Thera looked like she wanted to object, but something in her expression wavered. Where? Jaden grinned. I know a place. The Starlight Cantina occupied a cozy niche on the mid-level of Starport Meridian, tucked between a parts supplier and a cheap hotel. It wasn't fancy the tables were mismatched. The chairs had seen better decades. And the lighting was dim enough to hide questionable cleanliness, but the food was real. Not synthesized, and the owner didn't ask questions. When Jaden and Thera entered, the usual dinner crowd went silent. Then, slowly, deliberately, every single patron found somewhere else to be. Within 2 minutes, the cantina was empty, except for them and the owner, a grizzled Terran named Bosch, who'd seen enough in his 70 years to be unimpressed by much. Jaden, Bosch called from behind the bar. You bringing me trouble? When have I ever brought you trouble? Last month. That situation with the Viridian brothers. That wasn't my fault. They started it. Bosch's eyes shifted to Thera, taking in her armor and bearing with the practiced assessment of someone who'd spent time in less savory sectors. She with you? Apparently. Can we get 2 of whatever's actually edible today? Stew's good. Bread's fresh. Sit anywhere, seeing as you've got the whole place to yourselves now. Bosch disappeared into the kitchen, muttering something about his insurance premiums. Jaden chose a table by the window. If you could call the narrow viewport overlooking the station's exterior a window, and Thera sat across from him. She moved with careful precision, like she was occupying a space not meant for her. "This is your idea of a meal?" she asked, looking around the now empty cantina. "Everyone left because of you, not the restaurant. Usually this place is packed." Jaden leaned back in his chair. "Besides, the stew really is good. Bosch sources real vegetables from agricultural stations. None of that synthetic stuff." Thera's expression was unreadable. "You're not concerned about being seen with me. Should I be?" "Most would be. Association with someone like me can have ... consequences." "Yeah, well, I'm already having consequences. Might as well have company for them." Jaden studied her across the table. "Can I ask you something? Why did you decide to walk with me? Back in the concourse. You could have just moved around me and gone on with your day." Thera was quiet for a long moment, her amber eyes focused on something beyond the viewport. "When you have a reputation like mine, people treat you as a weapon. Something to be aimed, feared, avoided. They don't see ... double quotes," she trailed off. "They don't see you," Jaden finished quietly. Her eyes snapped back to his, surprise flickering across her features. "Yes." Before either could say more, Bosch emerged with 2 bowls of stew and a basket of bread. He set them down without comment and retreated, though Jaden noticed he kept glancing their way from behind the bar. The stew was indeed good, rich, and hearty, with actual chunks of meat and vegetables. Jaden dug in immediately, his earlier frustration giving way to the simple pleasure of hot food. Across from him, Thera ate with careful deliberation, like she was analyzing each bite. "This is acceptable," she said after a moment. "High praise from an assassin. I meant it as a compliment. I know." Jaden tore off a piece of bread. "So, this contract you're here for, is it the usual terrifying stuff, or more terrifying than usual?" Thera's lips twitched, not quite a smile, but close. "Classified, right, professional ethics." He paused. "You ever think about doing something else? I mean, you're clearly skilled at the whole intimidation thing. Could probably make a killing poor word choice. Could probably do well as, I don't know, a bodyguard? Security consultant? No one would trust me to protect them. They fear I would simply kill them instead." "Would you?" "No." The answer came quickly, firmly. "Despite what people believe, I have principles. I accept contracts only on those who have earned death through their own actions. Warlords, traffickers, those who harm the innocent." Jaden found himself nodding. "So you're basically a very violent vigilante. If you wish to simplify it." "I do." "Makes you seem less terrifying and more like someone with a really intense hobby." He grinned when she gave him an incredulous look. "What?" "I'm reframing the narrative. You can thank me later." They ate in comfortable silence for a while, and Jaden realized with some surprise that he was actually enjoying himself. When was the last time he'd shared a meal with someone who wasn't trying to sell him something or extract money from him? "Your business," Thera said eventually. "You said it's failing." "Yeah. Turns out being an independent merchant in a galaxy dominated by corporate shipping conglomerates isn't the smartest career move." He shrugged. "But I'm stubborn, and I keep hoping I'll catch a break." "What would a break look like?" "Honestly, just one clean transaction. One shipment that goes from point A to point B without customs shakedowns, equipment failures, or clients who suddenly decide they can't pay." One deal where I actually make enough profit to fix my ship and maybe buy supplies that aren't expired." He laughed, but there was an edge to it. "Not asking for much, right?" Thera set down her spoon, her gaze intense. "What if I could help with that?" "You already did." "The customs thing? No, I mean truly help. I have resources, contacts, information about shipping routes that avoid the most corrupt ports, knowledge of which trade outposts offer the best prices." She leaned forward slightly. "I could share this with you." Jaden frowned. "Why would you do that?" "Because you treated me like a person. Because you're not afraid. Because ... She hesitated, and for the first time since meeting her, Jaden saw genuine uncertainty in her expression. "Because I find myself wanting to continue this conversation. And if you lose your ship, you'll disappear back into whatever corporate structure will take you, and I'll never see you again." The admission hung in the air between them, vulnerable and unexpected. Jaden felt his heart do something complicated in his chest. "You want to help me stay in business so we can keep talking?" he asked carefully. "Yes, that's actually kind of sweet." In a strange, slightly concerning way. Thera's expression shuddered. "If you don't want, I didn't say that." Jaden reached across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. "I just want to make sure I understand. You're offering business advice, not like killing my competitors or anything, right?" I had not considered that option, but no killing competitors. That's a hard rule. When she looked almost disappointed, he added, "But the information thing? The contacts? Yeah, I could use that." "If you're serious." "I am." They looked at each other across the table, and Jaden felt the moment shift into something more significant than two strangers sharing a meal. This was a choice for both of them. A door opening to something neither had anticipated. "Okay," Jaden said. "Let's do this. But on one condition." "What condition?" "When you're with me, you're not the shadow. You're just Thera. No intimidation tactics, no threatening people well. Maybe a little threatening if they really deserve it, but mostly, you're just ... you. Can you do that?" Thera considered this for a long moment. Then, slowly, something in her posture relaxed. Not much, but enough that Jaden noticed. "I can try. Good enough for me." He held up his water glass. "To unexpected partnerships?" She lifted her own glass, confusion flickering across her features. "Is this a human ritual?" "Sort of. We're toasting. To new beginnings and not going bankrupt. Preferably both." A small smile, genuine this time, crossed Thera's face. She touched her glass to his with a soft clink. To new beginnings. They finished their meal while discussing trade routes and port regulations. And if anyone had told Jaden that morning he'd be getting business advice from a legendary assassin, he would have laughed. But here he was, taking notes on his datapad, while Thera explained which customs officials at Port Valencia could be reasoned with, and which ones required more creative solutions. When they finally left the cantina, Bosch called after them, "Don't make this a regular thing. Jaden, my other customers need to feel safe." "No promises," Jaden called back, grinning outside. The station had shifted into evening cycle. The lights dimmed to simulate nightfall. Though in space, the distinction was largely arbitrary. They walked toward Dock 42, and Jaden noticed the crowds were thinner now. The usual dinner rush dispersed into various establishments. "My ship's pretty basic," Jaden said as they approached the dock. "Nothing fancy. Half the systems are jury-rigged, and the climate control makes this weird whistling sound that I'm pretty sure means imminent failure. But it flies, and it's mine." "I would like to see it," Thera said. There was something in her voice, not eagerness exactly, but interest. Like she genuinely wanted to know more about his life, his world. It made something warm unfurl in Jaden's chest. They entered Dock 42, and there she was, the wandering star. She wasn't. Much to look at a mid-sized freighter, with hull plating that had seen better years and a color scheme that could generously be called patchwork. But she was home. She's beautiful, Thera said, and she sounded like she meant it. Jaden laughed. You don't have to lie. I'm not. She's survived. That's its own kind of beauty. They stood there for a moment, looking at the ship, and Jaden realized this was the best his day had been in months. Maybe years. Here he was, standing with someone who should terrify him, feeling more understood than he had in all his time struggling alone. So, he said, this partnership, how's it going to work? You can't exactly travel with me. You've got contracts, and I've got routes that probably don't align with assassination schedules. Thera turned to face him fully. In the dim dock lighting, her scales seemed to shimmer, her amber eyes luminous. My current contract will conclude in 3 days. After that, I have discretion in my schedule. Discretion meaning? Meaning I could accompany you on your next trade run. If you would have me. Jaden's heart kicked against his ribs. 3 days. She wanted to stay around for 3 days and potentially travel with him. This was moving too fast, probably. They'd known each other for all of a few hours. But something about this felt right in a way nothing had in a long time. Yeah, he heard himself say. Yeah, I'd like that. Thera's smile was small but radiant. Good. But you have to promise me one thing, Jaden added. Whatever this contract is, be careful. I know you're good at what you do, but he stopped, surprised by the genuine concern in his own voice. Just be careful. Something soft in Thera's expression. She reached out, and for a moment, Jaden thought she might touch his face. Instead, she let her hand fall back to her side. I will. They stood there in the loading dock, two people from completely different worlds, connected by something neither fully understood yet. Around them, the station hummed with life ships departing and arriving, deals being made and broken, 1,000 stories unfolding simultaneously. But in that moment, theirs was the only one that mattered. 3 days, Jaden said. 3 days, Thera agreed, and as she walked away, melting into the shadows that seemed to welcome her like an old friend, Jaden found himself already counting down the hours. He turned to his ship, to the cargo that had finally been released, to the work that needed doing. But for the first time in longer than he could remember, the future didn't look quite so bleak. In fact, it looked almost hopeful. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough.